funds drive. I'm extremely happy with this. One of the other commitment that I made to my people was to transform the Soufrière Foundation. I reported very clearly when I came in that we found the Soufrière Foundation in a total mess. And I want to take this moment to thank the chairman of the Soufrière Foundation, Mr. Samoje, and the board of the Soufrière Foundation for the sterling work that they have done. We continue to work. We have paid most of the debts that the last board and the last parliamentary rep left at the foundation. And now we have set up an events committee. We have brought in jazz back to Soufrière, and we have brought in, we saw the Carnival Queen show, and more than anything else, at a very high level and high quality. So I want to commend the various committees and the individuals for their services. Another achievement that we've seen, where the Minister for Finance, our Prime Minister, came in and supported the people of Foshe-Jacques through the Mocha housing program by writing off the debt that was due by the Foshe-Jacques Cooperative Credit Union. Again, that is twofold. Assisting the people of Foshe-Jacques, Mocha, but also supporting and giving new energy to the Foshe-Jacques Cooperative Credit Union. I want to take this moment to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for this. And I continue to work with the Foshe-Jacques Cooperative Credit Union so that the people of that area is properly served. Another major achievement for us is the endorsement by the government now to construct the new Soufrière Hospital. Persons may recall that in our budget this year, there's an allocation for some $2 million to do the groundwork for the Soufrière Hospital. Again, I want to take this moment to thank our Prime Minister for responding to the needs of the people of Soufrière Foshe-Jacques. The issue of healthcare generally is one that is extremely important. And as a government, we've placed significant emphasis on ensuring more than anything else that we complete the St. Jude's Hospital. And you may see and have heard there is also the introduction of the second part of the UHC program. St. Lucians may recall it was the St. Lucian Labour Party under Dr. Anthony that started the UHC program and introduced free medication for persons with diabetes and hypertension. And now it is the St. Lucian Labour Party government coming again to continue that program by providing health care for pregnant women. This is evidence all the time of a St. Lucia Labour Party government putting the people of St. Lucia first.
I'm voting Labour again. I'm voting Labour again. Whether hurricane, earthquake or tsunami, I'm voting Labour again. 15 more years for the little black boy. We are standing on solid ground. I'm not too well. I will be able to join you on Sunday, but my sister will represent me. Betty from Leslie. She'll be able to represent me. My spirit will be with you all. Bébé for Grosile, bébé for Grosile, bébé for Grosile, je Grosile, bébé for Grosile.
Lucia Labour Party candidate for Miku South at the last two general elections, Senator Gideon Ferdinand says the cries of the affected residents will not be ignored. Senator Ferdinand met with the residents on the weekend and is working with other members of the Duga community as well as seeking to mobilize government resources to assist the homeless. Stanley Lucian has that story.
Senator Gideon Ferdinand describes the demolition of the houses on the losing side of the protracted land dispute at Duga Miku as having a profound impact on those made homeless by the process, particularly the children and the elderly. The senator, who twice contested the United Workers' Party stronghold seat for the St. Lucia Labour Party, says steps are being taken to minimize the pain and suffering to the affected families.
I visited the families over the weekend. I was able to observe the reaction of the children, one or two elderly folk, and it's very sad what we've seen. I will not question the legality or anything like that. We must respect the law. However, my concern is more the impact it has on the lives of the people affected, particularly the students. There are children there who wrote the CPA exam last week. They are young children. I actually interacted with a few of them. And there's a lot of psychological and emotional damage that can do. So I'm hoping that the support will come for these families, the children particularly, that they can recover, rebuild, and resolve this matter without any further damage to anybody else.
Senator Ferdinand says the outcome of the judicial process has to be respected. He says the situation speaks to a larger looming challenge of land rationalization.
I think we have to resolve some of these land issues, particularly where it involves government or crown property. So I'm hoping that that will allow these families and other families in other parts of the country to be able to find suitable property, suitable land for farming, for residential purposes, so that there's none of that. We don't want to see these kinds of things continue to happen in our country.
This latest Duga land dispute that was almost 40 years in the making is just one of scores of such matters before the courts, many of which involve members of the same family. The losers in many of those yet to be decided legal battles may find themselves subjected to similar treatment as suffered by the Duga families. Stanley Lucien for the HTS News Force.
We should be aware of the myriad of challenges facing this sector. Based on my knowledge of the sector, very little has been done in recent times to directly benefit the over 3,000 MSMEs on record. This program has been designed to address one of the major issues facing the sector, particularly in the aftermath. It has demonstrated its understanding of a major challenge faced by our MSMEs, and it is addressing this issue via financial inclusion. Under this $10 million innovative support program, the beneficiaries will receive grant funding of 70% and loan funding of 30%. Loans will be provided at a highly subsidized interest rate of 3% on the reducing balance. So if you work out the math, for the maximum amount allowed under the program of $25,000, the beneficiaries will receive a grant of $17,500 and the balance of $7,500 will be a loan to be repaid over a term of, say, 3 to 5 years. The payment of which is a meager $135 monthly or over 5 years, or $216 monthly over 3 years. But to really show the impact of this intervention, it is very easy to see that if you have the normal loan of $25,000, which is what the recipients would be getting, at an average interest rate of 7% over 3 years, the repayment on this would be $771 a month. That is vis-a-vis $135 or $216 as I showed. So that really explains how important this intervention.
Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre was on hand to cut the ribbon and officially open a new cassava processing plant in Miku. The new facility is poised to further diversify the local agro-processing industry and paves the way for St. Lucian manufactured cassava byproducts to enter the local, regional, and international markets.
My car hasn't got an FAR, but I have a lot of interest. I have a lot of interest in in agriculture. So we were in Trinidad, and I had to go to Trinidad because I wanted to instill in my minister and to show the world that St. Lucia was interested in agricultural diversification. And that's why I had to come here. Because as you know, guys, the crops, the byproducts of cassava are phenomenal. I mean, I got some samples and I have some at home. The byproducts from cassava, the things that can come out of cassava, come from cassava. And I heard the expert from agriculture, Mr. Sherry, speak about cereals. That is a shortage. There's a big shortage of cereals in the world. And if we have our own cassava and our own cereals, we can do quite a bit. So this thing, what we're doing here is revolutionary.
The Prime Minister, members of his cabinet, and special invited guests were given a tour of the new facility where they also sampled cassava-based pastries. The new cassava processing plant also advances the peer administration's food security agenda, inching the country closer to reliable supplies of healthier food options.
We have to instill that kind of development in the mindset of our young people. And that comes, and we added to the fact that we can get our young people to change their tastes. To change their tastes. We know that it's many young people like, and I don't want to be macaroni and cheese, nothing wrong with it. But there's also green fig salad, and sweet potato salad, and breadfruit salad, and plantains. Local food with the same carbohydrates, but better carbohydrates, and foods that we can grow in St. Lucia, and foods we can grow in St. Lucia. We can add value to it, and we can improve the nutritional value in that food and help our young people.
The Global Environment Facility Small Grants Fund approved funding for the project. The cassava processing plant is...
Yes, it's on. Good. Please stand for the national anthem of St. Lucia. And compose yourself for prayer as I call on Honorable Emma Hippolyte, MP for Soufrière-Fossé-Jacques, to lead us in prayer.
Catholics, sign yourselves in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We'll start with the Our Father. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for the blessings that you've poured upon our country. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who have died for us on the cross. Today, we invite you in our midst and ask you for an outpouring of the Holy Spirit to touch each one of us here today. In a special way, we pray for wisdom on our political leader and the members of the panel today. We pray for our country. We pray for our youth. We pray for our St. Lucians in the diaspora. We pray for all who are following this discussion today, this open conversation. We ask you to let us have this conversation in truth, in peace. Let us be open in this dialogue as we as a people discuss and know how, as a government, we are leading your people. Father, you have called us to serve. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you and to serve our people and our country. We ask for your continued guidance, blessings, and protection. And we pray in a very special way for our country, St. Lucia, as we know that we are in your hands, and we continue to place ourselves in your hands. We thank you for hearing this prayer, and we pray in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Please be seated. Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Prime Minister and political leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Honorable Ernest Tiller, Deputy Prime Minister and First Deputy Political Leader. Honorable Sean Edward, Second Deputy Political Leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Chairman of the party and MP for Vieux-Fort North, Honorable Moses Musa Jean-Baptiste. To our stage and our host, because today is the Castries Basin, thank you, Honorable, Castries Basin Town Hall, or should I say now, City Hall. So we're going to have a conversation with our MPs who represent the Castries Basin, Honorable Richard Frederick for Castries Central, and of course, Senior Minister Honorable Stevenson King for Castries North. I am your host, Mondi Lewis, proud member of the St. Lucia Labour Party, and it's good to be here in another Town Hall Tuesday, everyone. Very great to be amongst Labour soldiers, Labour Party people, and those joining us online. I need to drink my gravy. It's a little hard. So without further ado, I would like to call on the MP for Castries Central, Honorable Richard Frederick.
Thank you very much, Mondi, Mistress of Ceremonies. May I ask you to accept that protocol has been established. That having been said, I want to recognize the esteemed presence of our Honorable Prime Minister, Philip Joseph Pierre, and other members of Cabinet. Folks, tonight, you know, it's a night when we have to do some reporting. Examinations nowadays don't take place in one instance at the end of the term. There is always an accumulation of marks over the period, and I'm sure the Minister of Education will tell you that the end of the term only accounts for about 40 or 50%, if that much. Continuous assessment. So we are here for you to assess us. Egmehadi les Saint-Lucien, pas quitter politiciens kwenè zot pour les vini 6 mois avant élection pour yo bay zot chicken and rum and bread and cheese and believe that all is well. All is not well. You have to assess the performance of your reps on a continuous basis. And if you believe that any rep is falling short, I believe it's incumbent upon you who has the interests of your rep at heart to call him or her and to say to him or her, you're playing the fool. Pull yourself up. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. But you know, folks, we don't have much time. It's a weekday. I want to briefly run through some things with you that include the rent reprieve program we introduced, the housing assistance program, our new NHC headquarters, Bodie Michal and Bodie Messi. And of course, we have received only last week approval in principle for 5 buildings to be located at Kazaba. So folks, let me start off with the rent reprieve. When we came into office, we realized that there were many people, hundreds of people, who cumulatively owed the government in excess of $7 million. If they had not paid for 15 years, we did not expect payment. And so discussions ensued within our August Chamber cabinet, and the decision was collectively taken that basically we will grant all those persons who were indebted to the NHC and the CCC a rent reprieve. So government actually lost out in excess of $7 million. That was the first set of assistance. Next thing we did, we examined what was available in our portfolio and under the housing ministry. And lo and behold, there was some $4 million US sitting, waiting in abeyance, I rather suspect, for the outcome of the elections on July 26, 2021. You see, the yellow brand thought people had jaundice, and their eyes were yellow. So that money was left there when it could have been used to improve the living conditions of our people. Immediately, I consulted the Honorable Prime Minister, who consulted the Taiwanese, and they indicated to us, yes, based on the option we put to them, we could have the funds repurposed. And so it was a very arduous task. The staff of the Ministry of Housing and of course the Attorney General's chambers had to put together a lot of documentation to permit what was an initial contract to have gone in a different direction. But lo and behold, all went well. We have so far disbursed about $1 million US, and the other $3 million US, we are in the process of having it disbursed. With that $1 million US, I'm sure you also some of the district reps, although it's not our policy, but then again, there are situations that you judge on its merit, and you tell yourself, if I attempt to repair that house, it may just collapse in my hand. And so it is within the deliberation of the district representative to make a judgment call in such a regard. But we are not, it is not our policy to go about building houses for all and sundry. But folks, my sad is out with the first $1 million US. I'm sure you all saw what Starbach did in Dennery. I'm sure you all saw what Moses Jabatis did in Viewfort North. I'm sure you all saw what Jeremiah Norbert did in Miku North. A number of houses were built, and of course all the others. Auntie Emma even had a check delivering ceremony where she gave each and every person their assistance in terms of housing. So we have done a good bit. Over 300 houses have been repaired. Over 300. And as we speak, we were awaiting the removal of VAT on building materials. That has been done. We are in the process right now of rolling out another $5.4 million, $2 million US. Adasemuna, you got travail un bac, you ni gogo kai, assistance ça c'est pour les pauvres lycéens. And pas dinay on moun qui really besoin aide là. And pas fait ça. Because too many of us, we believe that whatever we get should be for ourselves alone. Let us be each other's keeper. Let us do that. You know, sometimes we must understand that everybody cannot get everything. If there is a loaf, let us share it. We are school assistants, Adam unvle $2,000 leave. I mean, sometimes I believe our people need to use their consciences. And so we are asking you all, when you all are going to your rep for assistance, every rep has an allocation. See about this $1,000,000, ipakaisa by a lot, or sheet plywood. And so let us be reasonable in our request. Let us ensure when we go to our rep will say, yes, Sahapa mutwe akodi itwofo was mwekaya assisto. And that is what we need. We cannot give you everything, but we can assist you. Folks, next week, God willing, the National Housing Corporation will start moving its office. We are moving from rented premises to premises owned by the National Housing Corporation. For over 50 years, closer to 60, Atasa Yoteni HUDC, and I see my manager here. You know, HUDC, then it became NHC. We have been renting premises everywhere. Nuka batikai, nuka vankai, me nuka peluai. And I'm sure she can tell you, when the Prime Minister decided to bestow that portfolio upon me, one of the first things I told her, I am not leaving office unless NHC has its own headquarters. And so she took me around, and this is it right there. There will be a grand opening pretty soon. She took me around and she said, Mr. Minister, let us sell a piece of land. I don't know where we had land. She took me to the land that they made Roro about. And I want to say something tonight. I have never said it before, but I will say it tonight. I want to publicly thank Catherine Seelys, who was the one who initiated conversation with the buyer. I want to thank her. Give Catherine Seelys a round of applause. I knew absolutely nothing about that. But dommage, moi sapouan. Dommage. Folks, government of St. Lucia had rented that building for over 13 years. Flabo first rented it for over 13 years. And we paid a total rent, accumulated rent of $2.3 million. After 13 years, $2.3 million. We got the building at NHC for $1.8 million. And you want to kill me for that. You know, but Bodie met. And one thing the Prime Minister always says, Mr. Minister, good intentions always prevail. In this building, we will have access to the government telephone line. So we will be saving about $6,000 a month in telephone bills alone. We are renting now, paying almost $12,000. We are turning from a tenant to a landlord, because after we have enough space, we have space to rent for other government agencies. That is the kind of transformation you want. So you will understand why they are giving me pressure, because they don't want to see progress. They don't want to see progress. But I'll tell you, with the team of people I work with my cabinet team, and we all support each other. We all have a shoulder to lean on in this cabinet. If something is going wrong, we can tell our colleague, and our colleague will not hold grudges. We all work together in a very comfortable and friendly environment. And I must tell you, if I am unhappy, I cannot give that kind of productivity. So folks, we are getting there. You can now pay your rent on SurePay. We will be paying very soon online. You can pay your rent online. This building comes with it every recent piece of innovative technology that you can ever believe you can find. So we will have everything inside of there. And I just want to thank God that he gave me the opportunity to be part and parcel of such transformation. Mandy, I know I have almost exceeded my allotted time. But the last thing, so, but I just want to tell you all this. The last time St. Lucia saw a housing development, it was under your humble servant. The last time we saw it, it was in Marigot. I did that development. But hear this, I will leave you with this. The Department of the Development Control Authority has already approved 5 buildings to be located in Casaba, coming soon to a place near you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I want to thank all my colleagues who give me all the support I need to ensure that our people in Castries Central get the kind of representation they do deserve. Thanks again.
Thank you, Honorable Richard Frederick. And St. Lucians, this is no small feat, okay? Owning a piece of St. Lucia is important for your development, for the development of your children. I'm sure most of our MPs, if not all, have a story about their parents owning a piece of land that they could mortgage to send them to school. This is how you create generational wealth in your family. This is how you change lives. And the St. Lucia Labour Party is about changing lives and changing the fortunes of every single person in St. Lucia. I would now like to call on Senior Minister and the MP for Castries North, Honorable Stevenson King.
Thank you very much, Madam Mistress of Ceremonies, Honorable Prime Minister and colleagues on the platform, Cabinet Ministers, people of Castries Central, Castries North, Castries South, and Castries East, a pleasant good night to you. Tonight, I'm very proud to be here, to be part of probably my second town hall meeting hosted by the St. Lucia Labour Party. And it is comfortable and it is well to be in good company of men and women who are committed to the cause of the people of St. Lucia. And to date, on a weekly basis, when we meet, we spend much time discussing the issues which affect the people of the country. When we meet, there is passion, there is commitment, and there is conviction. And that is the spirit within this government, a government who cares for the people. On my part, my responsibility is the issue of infrastructure, ports, transport, physical development, and urban renewal, in addition to my own responsibility as the parliamentary representative for Castries North. So in the 10 minutes which I've been given, I will attempt to divide my presentation probably in 3 parts. 1, a national perspective of the infrastructure of the country. 2, a perspective of the constituency. And 3, some general issues. I would hope that the 4th session will come during the question and answers. And today, for this government, one of the biggest issues, like many other governments would face, is the issue of our road condition. And our road condition as it is today, we see it exacerbating every year as the rain comes down. And it's only as a result of poor planning and maintenance of our road network over the years that the infrastructure is fatigued, and once the rain comes, then it begins to unravel and we see the potholes throughout the country. But we are doing all in our power to try and stay on top of this. But I'm very confident that as of next year, based on the promise made by the Prime Minister, which I'm hoping he will unfold at some stage, we will see some major investment in our road network in the country to attack our major highways, byways, and community roads. But you know, many times and very often, those on the opposite side will criticize this government for failing to continue important projects. What this government has done is to continue important, significant contribution projects and review questionable projects that we believe we could have done better. So what do we see? The Millennium Highway, which was signed sometime in 2020, we came in and we have continued. It has been a major concern for us for the last year and a half, and it continues to worry us. And the Prime Minister, most of all, is very concerned about the pace at which that project is being unfolding, the pace at which it is being implemented. Last week, we had a delegation from the Caribbean Development Bank who came in for the third time in 2.5 months because of our expressions of concern at the rate of implementation on that project. We believe that the Millennium Highway is a critical project in the social and economic development and advancement of the country and its people. Last week's meeting, having sat down and discussed all of the issues with that project, the Prime Minister gave 6 weeks to see a major advancement. At the end of that, we will consider our options. There are 4 options which I shall not delve in tonight, but the 4 options will determine whether we continue on the trajectory that we are on now or whether we seek a new direction in moving forward. This would mean that we'd have to look at all of the options, considering the funding is from a grant program from the UK government, an amount of over 145 million EC dollars. But we also see that right next to the Millennium Highway, the main element of the Millennium Highway is a bridge which was constructed by the Japanese government. A bridge that will allow us, during our worst weather conditions, to be able to navigate the cul-de-sac basin and connect north, south, east, and west at one transit point. Beyond that, the second phase of the Millennium West Coast Highway project, which comes from a grant from the United Kingdom government, UKCIF, United Kingdom Caribbean Infrastructure Fund, that project will improve the road from the cul-de-sac bridge, the Japanese bridge, all the way to Soufrière. There is a contractor who is now on the ground, having been selected from a number of bidders. That contractor, we're hoping very soon, will be able to get the project off the ground. Today, I'm aware that they were negotiating some further details of the project, and we're hoping to see that project done within the next 2 years. That is one of the major projects we are looking at. The other project we're looking at, well, this is ongoing, but the new project we're looking at is the reconstruction of what used to be known as the Castries-Grosley Highway, which has now been changed to the Julian R. Hunt Highway. That road we're looking from Castries, the Shock Bridge, all the way to Grosley. And in addition to the main Castries-Grosley Highway, Julian R. Hunt Highway, we're looking at the by roads or the relief roads, the secondary roads, which will be able to ease the traffic off the main Castries-Grosley Highway
and make it a more attractive road to follow, improving the road network like the Vieux-Sequi, Norbert, Corinth Road into Granville Road. This is the kind of thing we're looking at. But also with all of the development that is taking place in the north, we need to look beyond now. And what we are now considering, and there seems to be a heightened interest in that piece of road, is what we call the North-South Link Road, for which a feasibility study was done in 2015 under the then Minister for Infrastructure, who is now our Prime Minister. That project was abandoned, and so the government, like the shock to Grosley Highway, was also abandoned in 2016. So now we are looking to move forward with those projects to create a more conducive and a more functional road network in the north of the country. This we are pushing, and we're hoping that we will get approval. We have to date received what I believe in principle some approval for the first phase of the road, which will start from Shockbridge to Marisil, and the Caribbean Development Bank has agreed to consider the other segment, which will take you to Grosley, and of course the bypass through Norbert, Vieux-Sequi, and Corinth. These are some of the projects which we are doing. Then you move into the communities. You, I'm sure from Castries East, will notice and appreciate the fact that we have been able to pave the Marshall Road, which was on a previous program but suspended, and your Prime Minister decided it is time that Marshall gets its fair attention, and we have been able to pave that road. In addition to Marshall, we have done the pavement in Rockhall and a few other communities, Wavin-Tutwell and others that we are doing, that we have done. We will see some more roadworks coming in the communities, as we have agreed that moving forward in a national plan for 2024 will be a suite of road infrastructure to be developed, including primary, secondary, and community roads, meaning that not only will you see road works being done on our primary road network, which is Castries Grosley Highway, West Coast, East Coast, along the Badlil, etc., but you'll also see in the secondary roads, those feeder roads that feed you on and off the main highways, you'll see works there, and community roads, which we call tertiary roads, you'll see more of that being done in the small communities. So I know how important it is to each and every parliamentarian. I know how important they see it, and so a focus will be placed, and with the support of the Minister for Finance, I am expecting a windfall next year and a massive mobilization program of road infrastructure improvement. Also, we have seen also, Minister Edwards is offering me a blue water. Also, we have seen works in VG Peninsula and other communities, so that kind of initiative will continue. We do our normal potholing program, and I must say we are under a lot of stress, and only last week we have decided that we need to give greater support to the in-house potholing unit, and therefore we'll bring on board a number of small, competent road contractors, I mean small road contractors who are experienced in road maintenance, potholing, to be able to stay on top of the situation. So, having said this, let me just move quickly to the Castries North constituency before I forget. In Castries North, in Wapatat, let me just say that for some time now we have been having some water issues in that community. Wapatat, Sunbuilt, Skate Town. 3 weeks ago, we started the infrastructure improvement to the water supply, and for those of you who live at Upper Wapatat, I'm sure you must have experienced an improvement in the supply and the frequency of the water, and that is only the beginning. We are looking at improving from the Sunbelt end, and finally to put in the community an additional 1 or 2 water tanks that will give you a supply that you can depend on throughout. That is the water supply. We are looking at, in the Sunbelt area, in some recent meetings with the Sunbelt community, the young people at Sunbelt, who have come forward, who have been motivated by the youth economy and what the government is attempting to do for young people, to empower young people, to energize themselves and engage in the economy of the country. They have come forward and said, we need to do something, we need to get involved. So we have now agreed that one way of getting them involved is by starting what I call a satellite youth business center in the Sunbelt area. We have identified some land, some crown lands in that area, and the intention is to put a youth business center that will allow those young people to get into small business, hairdressing, barber, convenience store, a supermarket, a mini-mart, etc., including a car wash. That is one of the things that we are doing, and some of the young men very much so have surprised me when they said we need to get into farming. So we're looking to see how we can get some agricultural land either at Union or in Roseau Valley, that they can now get into some productive activity and keep them occupied and participate in the advancement in the economy and benefit from the Youth Economy Agency and the opportunities that they are providing. And so you do have in Carolee, and today I had a discussion with the Prime Minister, although he has not committed himself, but he gave me the diplomatic language that he's willing to consider the completion of the Carolee Park and the opening of that park, hopefully I say, before the next budget. And finally, let me also state that in Leclerc, I haven't seen the Minister for Sports, but in Leclerc, the Minister for Sports has agreed that the Leclerc playing field will be upgraded to a first-class football field, and I'm sure the Prime Minister will speak about the league, the new league, semi-professional football league that we hope to launch, and Leclerc will be part of that with a new lighting infrastructure, seating accommodation, and change rooms for the community. So this represents the constituency. There are many other matters which can be brought up, but will be brought up at other meetings. But I want to thank those of you who have found the need to support this government. Those of you who have the confidence and the trust in the government. Because many occasions people tend to believe that the benefit of giving support either to their party, their candidate, and the government must come immediately. It calls for sacrifice. It calls for commitment. It calls for a level of conviction and trust in men and women who have demonstrated they have the capacity, they have the ability, and they have the quality of good government. I thank you.
Thank you, Senior Minister and MP for Castries North. And people, they want you to forget that when this government came into power in 2021, they left us with $184 million in direct awards for roads. Where are the roads? Any of you could see it? Where are the roads? And he said he was putting the $1.50 in a lockbox. You know, in the lockbox. Prime Minister is still looking for the lockbox. He is still looking for the lockbox. So do not let them corner you. You know the truth, but this government will deliver on the promises of better infrastructure, Vision 2030 for infrastructure, and Honorable Philip J. Pierre, along with Senior Minister, will deliver those projects to you. Now, this gentleman happens to be my MP. Castries South is in good hands with Dr. Hilaire. And you know, I'm saying all of this because I need a new grill. But I know there are more pressing issues within the community, and he will get to it because he is a man over the years who has delivered to the people of Castries South, and we know he will continue to do just that. So I now would like to invite First Deputy Political Leader and Deputy Prime Minister and MP for Castries South, Honorable Ernest Hilaire.
Thank you very much, Mistress of Ceremony. Let me recognize the Honorable Prime Minister and political leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party and all my colleagues from the Cabinet of Ministers, and to say a very pleasant good night to all of you. I must say it's a very joyous sight to see so many of you in the hall this evening to listen and to ask questions and to participate in our report of what we've done for the last 2 years. There's so much that we can say, and I think it's a little unfair to only give 10 minutes, because just reporting on what we have done in Castries South alone will take 10 minutes. But today was a very special day, and my colleague, the Attorney General, really pointed it out to me. He sent me a text. The Prime Minister, myself, and Senior Minister took part in a ceremony today. We had a sword-turning ceremony for the refurbishment and upgrade of the former Morgan Bay Wyndham Hotel. And he texted me and he said, the tourism guru did not start one project, but you all there turning sword at Wyndham Morgan Bay. And we laughed at it. But the point he was making is that today we took part, the Prime Minister, Senior Minister, and myself, in turning the swords for what will be, when it is finished, one of the most luxurious hotels in St. Lucia. And that's happening under the St. Lucia Labour Party. And if I want to say to you, and I want you to reflect on it, that for 5 years under the United Workers' Party, not one hotel was built in St. Lucia. Not one room was built. Think about it. The last hotels to be built in St. Lucia were Royalton and Harbour Club, which both started under the St. Lucia Labour Party. When we came into office in July 2021, we literally had to sit with a number of investors and to find out why projects were not starting in this country. And the story they gave us was frightening of what was going on in this country. And I can say to you, we've sat down with them and we've negotiated and discussed with them, and we've been able to get almost every single project back on track in St. Lucia and finally to be started. Yeah. Since then, we've started the Casabah Beach Hotel, which has been constructed now. In Canals, we have the Dreams Hotel being built. At Point Seraphine, we have the Marriott Hotel being built at this present moment. Since we've come into office, Sandals has expanded Halcyon. Sandals has now started expanding Sandals Latok Hotel since we came into office. And there's more to come. There will be a lot more announcements. This hotel in Strozel, the Grand Hyatt at Sabusha, started under Kenny Anthony, the process. For 5 years, nothing happened. And we've had to sit down and renegotiate and to get the process started again. And this is happening under the St. Lucia Labour Party. Today was also a special day. We had a press conference this morning. Tourism Authority reporting on the mid-year performance of St. Lucia. We actually reported up to the end of July. And I'm very pleased to inform you and all of St. Lucia that we've had already for the year a 12% increase on tourism arrival over last year. Last year we were able to achieve 84% of 2019, which was the best year in St. Lucia. And of course you knew after that there was COVID. Already for this year, we are 90% of where we were in 2019. But we have challenges. The airlines are saying no planes, no crew. Almost every single seat to St. Lucia is sold right now. Try getting a seat to go to Miami. Try getting a seat to go to anywhere, Charlotte, anywhere in the United States, and you'll see the challenge that you face getting out of St. Lucia. It is because of what we have done. I can say to you, during the election campaign, the Prime Minister is a former Minister of Tourism. And we were already planning. He never told me he would have appointed me if we had won to be Minister of Tourism. But he was already giving advice of what should be done once the government changes. Also, by the time we got into office and he announced that his cabinet, and I was given the task, we knew exactly what we were going to do. We knew exactly what we were going to do. And we started off immediately to ensure that this country opened up as quickly as possible, and we had an intensive marketing and promotional campaign all over the world. So we've done a lot in tourism. I'm sure the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance is smiling when you see the revenues that are coming in for the performances. But let me say to you, there are challenges. There are difficult times. But you know what? Labour has the resolve, the vision, and the competence to face those challenges and for us to overcome. I have no doubt about it. I need to tell you about jazz. You will all agree that this year's Jazz Festival was the best they ever had in St. Lucia. There's no doubt about it. Based on the figures we saw, we had over 5,000 people who said they came to St. Lucia for the Jazz Festival. Over 5,000 people. And based on the surveys we did, at least each person would have spent at least $2,100 in St. Lucia for Jazz Festival. So when you multiply $2,100 by 5,000, you would come up to seeing that almost $10 million was spent directly by those people in the economy. Last year we announced we were going to have Carnival, and person said we were mad, that how could we were so irresponsible to think of having Carnival. And we said no, we had a plan, and we called it Vax Mass. Remember that? That's what we were going to do. Luckily for us, the new COVID variant was not as deadly as the previous, and we were able to have Carnival. We were the first island, first country in the Caribbean that had a Carnival. We were brave, we were bold, and we were very clear in our minds how we were going to do it. Everybody else had to follow us. This year, we promised that Carnival would be even bigger. And I can tell you, based on the figures we've come up with, based on all the information we got, for the first 10 days of July, there were 15,000 visitors that came to this country, plus 3,000 returning nationals for the first 10 days of July. 18,000 people came to the country. If you take at least 30% came for Carnival, just 1/3. That means 6,000 people came for Carnival. So just think about that. And the surveys showed that each person spent $3,000 on accommodation, on food, on shows. So think about that. That's another $18 million spent directly in the economy by those persons. It's the largest number of arrivals we've ever had in the history of St. Lucia for Carnival. And it happened under the St. Lucia Labour Party. I can also say to you, our creatives, our singers, our dancers, our musicians have never had it so good. Since July 2021, they've been a constant engagement of our creatives in St. Lucia. Constant. Look at under culture. What we did last year for the first time to revive the La Rose. We've always had La Rose, we've always had La Marguerite. But last year we put in a special effort to make sure that we raise the profile of those festivals in St. Lucia. The Prime Minister said he wanted emancipation celebrated like never before in St. Lucia. And last year, for the first time, we celebrated it in such a manner. This year, we repeated it. And I think we're ready now next year to go down to the other communities and to have the same kind of shows that we had in St. Lucia, the same kind in Castries, the same kind of presentations. So we are as a government, very clear in our mind what the vision is, what our focus is, and the actions that are necessary to pursue and achieve those objectives. In information, I just have one piece of good news, and I'm sure you would have heard it. Radio St. Lucia is back. You know, we've gone through the test period. It worked well. So we're now going through achieving all the regulatory requirements, applying to NRTC and all the other regulatory requirements. And when we finish, we'll have a big formal launching of Radio St. Lucia, and it will be available for all St. Lucians. I don't have the time to tell you about all the other projects and all the other programs that we've pursued, but I want to mention to you GPH. Because a lot had been said by the opposition about GPH. And you know the thing about it is the opposition has no shame. Seriously, no shame. No shame. That they negotiated with GPH for an agreement. In 2008, the leader of the opposition signed an agreement with Royal Caribbean for the upgrade of Port Castries. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. In 2018, he signed another agreement. Nothing happened. Then he decided to negotiate with GPH for the upgrade of the cruise services in St. Lucia. The agreement was virtually signed, but then we had elections, and they lost. And then we came in, and then we decided we wanted to review that agreement before any signing would take place. And we said to GPH, we want more than what's in there. Let us renegotiate this. And we started renegotiating with GPH to have a better deal for St. Lucians. And then a particular parliamentary representative decided even what we had asked for, even the more we had gotten, Sapati Ase, Soufre is not included. Soufre must be there. And she made a case to the Prime Minister, who instructed me to tell them, make sure they put in something for Soufre. And we included the redevelopment of the Soufre waterfront. And even when we finish, the member for Castries Central make a case for an overhead bridge from the new Vendors Arcade to the market. The point I'm making is that when we got in and we saw what was there, in our assessment, it was not the best for St. Lucia. And we renegotiated it. And that burned the UWP so much. So now they're saying, we sell the port. How do you sell Port Castries? How do you sell Port Castries? And they're spreading all kind of rumors about GPH. But the fact is, we bettered what they had on the table. And GPH will redevelop the Soufre waterfront. GPH will improve Point Seraphine to have bigger ships come and berth there. We will build a boardwalk from Sanssouci Bridge to the Vendors Arcade, creating more opportunities for vendors and small business persons along that boardwalk. We will build a new Vendors Arcade. The one we have there is old, it's tired, it's leaking, it's not aesthetically pleasing. We will build a new one and upgrade the entire waterfront. We'll break down the old customs building. We will rationalize that area. And of course, the final element of it is a little fisherman's village in Banan. Because, you know, when the ships are leaving the harbor, we want the last sight of the harbor to be the most pleasant sight. So we will upgrade it. The fishermen will get modern facilities, and there'll be shops and jetty, whatnot. And we will transform Castries. And I know the member for Castries Central has quite a lot of plans for Castries Central, and Castries will start becoming a modern city under the St. Lucia Labour Party. 1 minute. Let me say a couple of things about Castries South, because my time is up. Under the last government, Honorable Stevenson King announced in Parliament that as part of the road reconstruction program, that the Marigot Road will be reconstructed and the Bassett Joseph Road will be upgraded. He announced it in Parliament, but he was prevented from doing it. A board was put up in Marigot announcing who's the contractor, start date, end date. Twice they tried to start the works, and on both occasions they were stopped. just to make sure nothing was done in Castries South and for the Labour Party opposition members. Well, the government changed. And then Honorable Stevenson King, under the direction of the Prime Minister, decided that we are going to honor the contract that had been decided upon to repair the Marigot Road and the Bassett Joseph Road. The Bassett Joseph Road had never been fixed ever since it was built. Never. And the St. Lucia Labour Party and the Philip J. Pierre has reconstructed that road. Imagine that. The Marigot Road was also upgraded. And lastly, a community center was started by Robert Lewis in 2015. We had elections in 2016. It was half finished. The government stopped it. And for 5 years, that center was not completed, even if there was funding for it. Well, under the St. Lucia Labour Party, under Philip J. Pierre and my colleagues, it is been finished now. It is been finished. So, Castries South, there'll be a lot more to come. But, like the Prime Minister always says, Chen Si Guo. I have my AGM on Sunday. I invite all of you to come to Cicera for the AGM, where I will give a full report on the constituency and what it is that we plan to have for the constituency. And we have a lot of great news that we will share as to the work of the St. Lucia Labour Party in Castries South, the constituency of George Charles, the constituency of John Odlam, the constituency of Robert Lewis. And I can say to you, Castries South will never be the same again after this St. Lucia Labour Party term in office. So let me say thank you to the Prime Minister for placing the confidence in me with the portfolio you gave me, all my colleagues for all the support that they always give, and for the encouragement that I get. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Hilaire. Honorable Hilaire, you're telling us all the good news, but you're not telling us that somebody lost a case. You're not telling us somebody lost a case against the comptroller and ordered to pay money. Anyway, how is the Range Rover driving though? But anyway, next story. Just a little, a little joke, but it's true though. He lost and he has to pay. Now I have the pleasure of calling on our political leader and Prime Minister, a man that I get to work with every single day. And every single day he reminds us all that we are doing it for the people of St. Lucia. Honorable Philip J. Pierre, MP for Castries East.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me recognize my colleagues from the cabinet, and let me publicly thank them for the cooperation that they have given to me from July 2021. Let me publicly thank them and tell them how appreciative I am of them and what they do for St. Lucia. You must have heard before July 21 that the government would have been in chaos. We would have been fighting. We would not have lost. Some people never even realized that they'd lost the election because they were planning to go back. In fact, some of them went into a car that wasn't theirs. Because they really thought that this government would not have last. Wouldn't have last. All kind of predictions. Who would fight if who? Who would not be able to manage the economy? I'll tell you something. This economy has been managed in the last 2 years better than it ever was. Better than it ever was under the United Workers' Party. Ever. And I can say that without any fear of contradiction. Let us deal with inflation, the cost of living that they always make a big fuss about, the price of everything going up, and what the government is doing, all of them, short and tall, what the government is doing. How can we reduce while the cost while the cost of goods going up? And and they get personal and do all kinds of things. If you try to say some things that make sense, they attack you, because that's... In 2017, inflation was 0.1%. Inflation is how the cost of goods and services increase. 2017, it was 0.1%. 2018, inflation was 2.6%. That means the cost of goods and services went up by 2. Inflation was 0.5%. Remember, the elections were in 2016. In 2019, inflation was 0.5%. That means 0.5% cost of goods went up, 0.5%. In 2020, and that is before COVID, in 2020, inflation was minus 2.6%. This is called disinflation. Minus 2.6% in 2020, the year of COVID. 2021, when we got into government, inflation went up to 2.4% because the world was rebounding, things are getting better, 2.4%. In 2002, our year in government, inflation was 5.7% in some places, and in other places 7%. Inflation. In 2023, when it's expected that inflation should decrease, it hasn't. Inflation is still stubbornly at 5%. That is the reality of inflation in St. Lucia and inflation in the world. All of you have radios, all of you have televisions, all of you listen to the news. You hear what's happening in some of the major countries in the world. You hear what's happening in England, where it's been predicted that for the winter there may be people freezing. You hear how England had what is called a period of discontent, which was similar to when Margaret Thatcher was in government. You know what's happening in the United States? But in St. Lucia, some people who cannot understand where they are spread all kinds of lies and rumors about the cost of living, what we can do. Here's what we've done for the cost of living. We've removed the service charge on all basic commodities. The 6%, we no longer pay it. We have removed taxation on anybody who given pensioners a one-off payment of $500, we're going to give them another one of $600. And I want to tell pensioners, because I know there are some people who forgot they were in government, who forgot that the last 5 years they did nothing for pensioners. I want to tell pensioners of this country that the cabinet has decided there's going to be adjustment in the cost of living. When the cost of living is adjusted, their salaries will increase. Because we forget, we pretend as if St. Lucia began on the 21st of July 2021, 26th of July 2021. We believe St. Lucia just began. I want to tell the pensioners that whereas for the last 5 years, they were never looked at, this government and this cabinet has decided that there's going to be an adjustment in their salaries based on adjustments in the cost of living. And whilst we're talking about the future, I have a long list of the future. We have got the report on the livable minimum wage for the workers of this country. We have that report. That report was shared with me by the Minister for Labor. And very, very soon, we are going to be announcing a livable minimum wage for the workers of this country. Which means that there's going to be a minimum wage, that people should not work for less than that. But we are in a market. And the reason why we are taking so long to do that, because we need to discuss with the Chamber of Commerce, we need to discuss with the Manufacturers Association, we need to discuss with all these people before we come up with a wage that is going to benefit everyone. Because as I said today, and I want to congratulate the Minister for Tourism and Tourism people, today we turned the sword for 351-room hotel in St. Lucia. And I want you, all of those who are talking, all of those who know about tourism, tell them, when last was a new hotel built in St. Lucia? And don't tell me about COVID, you know. I'm talking about before COVID and after COVID. Before COVID, the government changed in 2016. COVID was in 2019. Where was the hotel between 2016 and 2019? And where was the hotel between 2020 and 2021? Several islands. Dominica, a hotel. New hotels came in after COVID. Barbados, St. Kitts, Antigua, Grenada, except St. Lucia. And anyone who wants to say whatever they want about me and the government or the St. Lucia party, name one hotel that was built in St. Lucia under the United Workers' Party. One hotel. And these are the facts of managing this economy that we want to forget. They said we will not be able to pay civil servants. There are all sorts of rumors. I can tell you, civil servants, they can go to the bank and get the money the day before payday. The day before payday, civil servants can get a salary. And we've not only done that, we've paid them the back pay. We've paid them the back pay. We have removed the VAT on some building materials so that they can repair their houses. We've done that. We've paid them the back pay. And not only that, we have instructed that negotiations for changes in the salary structure begin immediately so that civil servants can get a fair day's work for a fair day's, give a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. So we don't want any halie-casse in the negotiations. We want to sit like men and women and decide, let us negotiate based on the reality of the country so everybody can benefit. That is what your government is doing. What else we've done in terms of inflation? Last week, we started paying out $2.5 million to farmers after Hurricane Brett. $2.5 million in cash to farmers of this country. Also, Minister of External Affairs negotiating with the Moroccans, and they're going to get nearly 4,000 bags of fertilizer for the farmers of this country. And we are, as we speak, repairing the Choiseul Fisheries Complex in opposition constituency. In an opposition constituency. And I want you to know, they gave me 20 minutes. But you know, I decided, I got my people to help me to do a list of things that we've done. And if I start, I go finish. So I will just deal with just a few things that we've done for the last 2 years. I want you to think about it. Some of you, most of you here can remember, think about the first 2 years of the United Workers' Party rule. You know, when they're talking and some of you get excited about it, say, think about the first 2 years of the United Workers' Party rule between 2016 and 2018. Think about the first 2 years. And tell me what happened. Think about the first 2 years of the Labour Party rule. And we can't tell you, so much happens, we can't even read it. Look at what they found. Our philosophy and our ideology must remain. We have to be a party for the people. And some people try to say you put people first. Of course we put in people first. We may not put individuals first, but we put in people first. And we make no bones about it. We are putting people first. We found Majestic Industries for decades. For decades, these people at Majestics had not been paid. The investor took their labor and ran away with it. We decided, and the senior minister was telling you about the debates we have in this cabinet. In this cabinet, there are men of different ideas, different visions. But one vision all of us have is that we want this generation to be better than our generation. We want to create a country where the wealth of this country is shared according to meritocracy. What you put in is what you'll get out, but we'll help you to put in something. So what we did, we paid the Majestic workers for decades. For decades. In fact, a lady told me that she had forgotten that Majestic had owed money. We paid each of them $10,000. Each of them. Further, we spoke about Liat. And again, the people, in fact, some of my colleagues, when they see me, they almost want to, they tell me, man, one is laughing. Because some prime ministers look at me and tell me, boy, that kind of trouble you put me in with this Liat thing you did. We paid all the Liat workers. We paid them the Liat workers because we think that when people work, they have to get paid. And that is why we are going to have a livable minimum wage for the people of this country. You know, so I want you to look at this country. I agree that everybody needs to improve. And that's what we're all about. Continuous improvement. We speak about youth development. When we had the idea of the youth economy, they ridiculed me as usual. They ridiculed me. They ridiculed us. But that vision, and you know, when we talk about vision, you know, Alva says something called Malpot, Batem Popot. You know, you can say whatever you want, you know. You can say it with whatever accent you want. You can make it sound as good as you want, but put it on the ground. And I want you to compare my stammering, my begging. Put that on the ground with my performance against all those who can speak. Put it on the ground. Let's go. Let us go on a competition. Managing the economy, tourism development, youth development, even one that they're afraid to touch, crime. Because you know, they believe that crime is our Achilles heel. Of course there's too much crime. But look at the definitive steps I took to deal with the crime situation. When we spoke about the Suppression of Crime Act, you know, these people were saying that we infringe on people's human rights. But we had the courage, and that's the word. The men and women of the Labour Party had the courage to deal with the crime situation. It has not been solved. It has not been solved, but we've had the courage to act upon it. And that is what we did. And we're still doing that. We called the RSS, they criticized us. They have tried, and I'm going to repeat it again, this trying to destabilize the St. Lucia Police Force will not work. Because you have an opposition that has reached the stage of desperation. It's a desperation that's dangerous. And we must be, and sometimes that desperation may even confuse you. Because this morning, somebody sent me a video about a fella that I owe him $10,000. I never see the fella. I don't know the guy. Philip J. He said he was cleaning he was using a weed eater between the Marshall police station and the community center. Go there and see if you can use any weed eater there. Go to Marshall and tell me if you can use any weed eater, because between the police station, I mean, these guys, they lie so much. They lie without even thinking about the lying. But once the cabinet is with me and the people are with me, these things do not function. So, the youth economy, we said we put $5 million in. We decided we put $5 million in, and we put our office on Chaussee Road. And a friend of mine wanted to put his too, so he decided to build a building on Chaussee Road too. You understand? Because there is no part in St. Lucia that people can't say they can't go. Them places, this. Nah. We building Chaussee Road. So the NHC building will go up in Chaussee Road. The youth economy building, offices are in Chaussee Road. And that is going to be the beginning of the development, as Dr. Hiller says, of a new Castries. So we invested $4 million in the youth economy, called the Caribbean Development Bank into St. Lucia. They were so impressed with us that they gave us a loan and a grant totaling $18 million for the youth economy. And the youth economy, I have never been to the youth economy office. Because there are two things I believe that politicians should stay away from: sports and youth development. I think sports should be left out of politics, and youth development should be holistic. So I've never been even in that office after we open it. All I do is I make the resources available. So now the Caribbean Development Bank has decided that they are going to be involved. They're going to help us. They're giving us a grant of $300,000 to build our capacity so that the youth economy can do what it must do, what it can do. We have already disbursed 200 grants for small businesses. 200. And that is on the increase. We have to have certain, what is called, certain preconditions. And I have staff in the Ministry of Finance that ensure that I keep my feet on the ground, and even though I can instruct, I keep to the rules. This Prime Minister will never buy a car and not tell the Ministry of Finance. And when it comes, tell them pay it. This Prime Minister will never incur debt for the people of St. Lucia without informing his cabinet or the folks in the Ministry of Finance. Anything I do, I do two things. I consult the cabinet and I consult the technocrats, because I trust them, and I say to them, I'll trust you until you make me distrust you. And when I distrust you, Balfini will answer. So, where are Monday says time up? You see, I have so many bosses in this business. So let's take a quick look at the future. A quick look at the future. I said before, the minimum wage. We have a big announcement to make in housing. A major announcement. The minister showed me that the Development Control Authority had approved of a certain stereotype house, but there's a big announcement to make that not even he knows. Because if I tell him, I'm going to be in trouble. Yeah, you're right. A major announcement to make in housing, major, it will blow your mind. It's going to be the biggest housing announcement made in this country very shortly. January next year, we are going to start the Halls of Justice complex opposite the cathedral. We're going to be joining that building to the old education building to put a modern structure for the court in St. Lucia. That's going to start in January. I have spoken about the expansion of the youth economy. Next year is going to be the year for infrastructure. Major investment in roads in this country. And some of those roads will start this year, like the Austin Road in Denver North is going to start this year. There are some roads that are going to start this year. Now, you know, my people in Castries East always tell me I talking about them. No, that is our business. Don't let anybody interfere between you and me. Let them, our business is our business. All right? That's our business. So a massive road infrastructure, including slope stabilization, will start in this country next year. We've started the new hotels. There was a turning today for the new hotel and more to come. But why is we are doing that? We're going to be initiating a new Tourism Development Act. You may recall, and you know, sometimes it almost gets me a little sad. You may recall, we were the ones who had the TX for taxi drivers. You remember that? We are the ones who gave taxi drivers incentives. And right now, the cabinet decided under this minister, we're going to begin to revive it so we can have a proper distribution and a proper taxi service in St. Lucia for the tourists under this government. We are starting 4 new sports facilities and more to come next year. So this year, we're starting 4 new sports facilities with lighting and seating, including one in Viewfort North, which we've been promised the people of Viewfort North since before. And I went to Viewfort North during the campaign, and I said to the young people there, we are going to build that facility. And I want to tell them that this facility is going to start momentarily. And I want you to fact-check me. Everything I say there tonight, apart from the nonsense that they speak, I want you to fact-check me. Check it out when we come back here for another town hall meeting. We are doing some repairs to the schools, including the cabinet and the parliament just passed $5.4 million to repair schools that were damaged by Hurricane Brett or Tropical Storm Brett. And again, the minister does not even know that as yet. We are in negotiations with some people for a massive injection in school repairs. Hopefully, we should get a response very soon. So we're going to spend about $5 million in school repairs. But I've said to the Minister of Education, he's got to work out the logistics of how we can move, because some of these schools, there are children in these schools. We are starting, the Minister for Infrastructure told you, we are starting part of the Castries Grocery Highway, being funded by QAT, the QATs, and the other part, the Caribbean Development Bank. But we're going to start one part. And I've said to the minister, let us see if we can start that as soon as possible, because we do not want it to appear as if it's election situation. So the Grocery Highway is going to start as soon as, but we're going to tell you when. And you know, when these guys talk about the Grocery Highway, do you know these guys had a loan that was signed and delivered, but because they could not choose the contractors, they stopped the Grocery Highway? And these guys are shameless. We are going to, as I said, we're going to be doing the Austin Road and some of the roads. Then there's a thrust which the minister forgot on renewable energy. The Electricity Supply Act will have to be passed in this term so we can use renewable energy, so we can reduce our cost, the cost we pay for fossil fuels with a new Electricity Supply Act, so we can deal with it both for the Ministry of Environment, for our carbon footprint to be decreased, and talking about that, the replacement of the sodium lights by LED lights has begun and is going to continue. A project that was funded already by the Caribbean Development Bank, but the last government abandoned it because, again, they could not choose the contractors. That is starting now. We are going to, and that's what they don't want to hear, we are going to complete St. Jude. I want to say to them again, we are going to complete St. Jude. You understand? Because no one can tell me why work on the original St. Jude was stopped. But you know what? You know what? You know what? Do you know? And I challenge them. You see, that's why they have to criticize you and they're not big, by God. I challenge them. To say that's not true. I challenge them. And you know, you're always saying, you talk about special prosecutor. Tanto. Challenge them. Do you know, these guys, financial gurus, for those that say they have degree in economics, for those that say they work for international bodies and they can negotiate, and this boy can't negotiate because do you know, these guys negotiated a loan, and after the interest on the loan, they pay a contractor 8% on every disbursement. You want to believe that? That's the question. Why? And I am saying this tonight. Because you know, sometimes they forget that the Labour Party runs the country. You can't oublier. That's why there's going cars that don't belong to them. We have to find out who gave permission for 8% to be paid on every dollar. Or what? OECC. I want to say it correctly. Who gave permission for that 8% to be paid on top of every dollar that was paid to that firm? So the interest rate that you're paying on these loans, both for HIA and for St. Jude, is actually 13%. And when we negotiate a loan at 2% with a 5-year grace period and a disaster clause, they want to attack us. You want to believe that? These guys negotiated and they sat and they allowed it. 8% on every cent that was paid to that firm. And I won't tell you where some of it went. So that is why they are crazy. That's why you see all those that they're coming back, everybody in. Talk about gage, obia, nonsense. Foolishness. Nonsense. Because you know, what they want to do is, when the one they call, you know, I can't help myself. When Peter Josie was in politics, when Peter Josie was Peter Josie, when he was a man of some level of when Josie was Josie, Josie said one day on the market steps, they madam take a babier. I got to my mama, mama, crying off like you. You know? So what these guys are doing, they're trying to cloud the thing, cloud it up. A police, OBA, gage, nonsense, health and security, just cloud it so that they can put us off. But these men and women are focused and we keep our eye on the prize. So we are going to complete St. Jude. Work on the Hiwano International Airport is going to start by January this year. And I know Ernest is behind me for that debate in the parliament. Soon come. We are moving the Castries Health Center to the old Victoria Hospital so that we can have a new polyclinic for the residents of Castries at the hospital. We are starting work on the health center in Dennery North momentarily. We are work on the GPH project is going to start in earnest. You see something happening on the ground. I've spoken about the sports facilities that we are going to do. We are predicting this year economic growth of between 4 and 7%, which is going to be higher than the world average for economic growth. We've started negotiations for salaries for public servants so we can have decent negotiations. But there is one thing that we all must keep in mind: climate change. And all these things can be wiped out with one hurricane. And this is a sad note that we must all agree to. And that is why each one of you must take responsibility for environment. Do not throw things in the river. Do not leave rubbish by the side of the road. Don't put old fridges and old stoves by the side of the road until you know bulky waste. Don't do it. Do not allow garbage in your gutter because you want a contract. And you know, and that is the relationship I have with my people. I tell them the truth. You understand? A lot of people do these things because they think they want a contract. Comrades, the money you're going to get for the contract, when the hurricane comes, it will be of no use to you. Because your entire country can be wiped out in a few hours by a hurricane. So I'm saying to you, take these measures. You need to have the discipline. You have to love your country. Don't allow politicians to make you dislike your country. Do not worry the United Workers' Party that want to create hatred and hatred in this country. We are people of love and understanding. Let's work together. We are people of high integrity. We are the country of people like Derek Walcott, Arthur Lewis, people like the former Prime Minister, Mr. Louisi, the country of Kenny Anthony, a country of George Charles, a country of Darren Sammy, a country that is delivered to the world, a country of Danny Alexander, a country of Gillian Alfred. That's our country. A country of Winston Paris. That's our country. Let's not let selfish politicians who have no motive but their own self-aggrandizement and their hatred for the people of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Let's not let them fool us. My sisters, my brothers, I have a lot more to tell you. Again, I want to thank you. For the people of Castries East, we have our constituency conference on the 9th of September. We'll sit down in private and talk our business. So, thank you very much and good night.
Thank you, political leader and Prime Minister Honorable Philip J. Pierre. And I know Prime Minister's list was very long, but I just want to highlight, what we've done in education. Honorable Sean Edward, you've been championing our scholarship program, First Generation, and people, do not let them tell you that it's just a laptop. Once you give these children nowadays a laptop, it's like they were born knowing how to use it, and that changes, that gives them the advantage. When you send a child to university, it changes the fortune of families and generations to come. So do not think that these are just little things that this government is doing. These are big and important things that will change your life, so that any one of your children can decide that they want to be a politician, they want to be the next prime minister, they want to be the next cabinet secretary, because we have invested in the education of the ordinary St. Lucians. So now we will have questions. We will put a mic in the middle or have a roving mic. And please, I know we have a lot of questions. We will take some questions online. I will be monitoring the chat. Please keep your questions concise. Please, no long preambles, because we want to give as many people a chance, and we know there is work tomorrow, 8 o'clock. You have to give the employer their fair day's work for fair day's pay. So the mic will be assembled in the middle, in the aisle, and you will come and direct your questions to anyone on the platform. And if you have a specific question to one of the MPs, because all of our MPs are here showing support for the St. Lucia Labour Party and the government of St. Lucia. So please direct your question through the mic. When I indicate that you can go up, please, we'll do so orderly. Just let the mic settle. But you can start forming a queue if you want to, so we could speed up things. Okay. We have two gentlemen coming up. I'll do one after the other. Yes, please. Go ahead, so with your question. Yes, please form the queue to ask your questions.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir tout le monde. Pour nous la voter, nous tous parler là, un seul nom maintenant qui parle en langue là-bas. Il y a moins pas fort en anglais, moins plus fort en patois. Bon, moi apprécier M. Cédric parce qu'il dit nous des petits mots patois. Bon, moi c'est pas réelle question. Moi nous on concerne, mais pour moi je concerne ça quoi dit pas ici y a pas bon. Mais matériel il y a un honneur pour moi. Si moi il y a 4 encasa ensemble, 4 encasa à least 4 appointments et puis moi souple. Parce que moi j'ai un problème qui a mal ça comment me expliquer. Je me dis que les autres souple. Donc 4 encasa qui là, soit jeune et puis moi souple bonnet qui possible.
Thank you, sir. And gentlemen, I hope you accede to the man's wishes. Thank you.
Good night to everybody.
Good night.
Good night to our Honorable Prime Minister, part of the Cabinet. And I'm happy to be here tonight. I see my district rep is there, and he's the Minister for Transport. So I have a question to ask. You remember the British government gave, under Dr. Kenny Anthony, £20 million to do the road from Babono down in the valley. Now we also know that the jokers that they had there, they stopped it. So we want to know what is the status of that project, because it's very important for the people of Babono going down in the valley. I just want to know what is the status of that project, sir, Minister.
I believe you're speaking about the UK CIF grant, which of course was given to St. Lucia as a regional project for construction of roads. The £20 million couldn't and cannot build that road from Babono to Dennery. The value of that road, what we call the North-South Link Road, so far, the estimated cost is in the region of $600 million US. When you work that out, and there are two options. One is 438 million, the other one is 600 plus million US. You do the conversion, it's about 1.4, 1.5 billion EC dollars. So what we did, we accepted the money and injected it into the Millennium West Coast Highway. We have not given up on that particular project, because what it's going to do is to open up what I call virgin territory on the East Coast and probably develop a new segment, a new community, whether it's in tourism, in housing, whatever the case may be, a new town maybe. So we are still seeing that as the vision for the future. There are a number of private individuals, investors, who are beginning to express some interest, and the Minister for Investment, through the CIP program, has introduced a new feature under the CIP program, which will allow investors to invest in the program and to be able to get the necessary rewards for the investment. So I believe there's an opportunity through investment that we can do this particular road, but it's one that is still on the cards.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister.
Mr. King, direct to you. You know I live by the roadside.
Yes, this branch.
Nurse Harris.
Nurse Harris, sorry.
Right. And the tree across the road is a nuisance. I am getting on in age. I cannot scrub that yard every day. All I'm asking, please, is on government land, if you can cut that one, if you can't cut all the right now, but that one in particular, it needs to go.
Okay, that tree and the others, it's on my program for, well, we should have done it already, but it will be done.
Thank you.
I promise you publicly.
Right, I have witnesses.
Yeah, that one is for you, Brother King. Minister King. I saw the Prime Minister sign a contract to develop the waterfront, Castries waterfront. In front of the arcade, we have a four-lane road in front of the arcade Castries Market. When you leave the arcade, you reach in Canway, it ends up in a one lane, leaving Castries. It is a nightmare for a vehicle to embark from Castries. It's always a bottleneck and a problem. At least, I'm looking at we should have at least 2 lanes of road leaving Castries to the Grizzly Highway. Do you have consideration of this in that project?
Okay, we do not have any immediate intentions of establishing a 4-lane in front of the government building. It's now a 2-lane. It's unfortunate that you have a 4-lane going into a 2-lane, or a 2-lane going into a 1-lane northbound. Because when you look at the Sanssouci Bridge, the Sanssouci Bridge is a 2-lane bridge. And so we couldn't have developed a 4-lane going into a 2-lane at a bridge. It's most dangerous. So it's better to keep it as a 2-lane until further notice, but to be able to do a 4-lane as you're speaking about, we'd have to do major traffic management on that road. Because to navigate off a 4-lane into government buildings and coming out and crossing the line of traffic is confusion. So we understand the problem, but we believe that as time goes on, maybe down the road we can consider your proposal.
So let me just throw a little light on that situation. You have a 2-lane in front of the arcade, but 1 lane is meant to go straight and 1 lane is meant to turn right. So it does not have to lead into 2 lanes. If you are going straight up the Grizzly Highway, it would be 1 lane to 1 lane. The other lane is to facilitate persons who are going round the roundabout.
Okay, good night. Good night, everyone. And my question is to Mr. King, who is my rep, and it also has to do with infrastructure and roads. So, Mr. King, the general consensus is if America catches a cold, everybody sneezes. Now, I make that statement to go on to just my next point. We in Kaweli, if there's an accident anywhere in Castries, we know because Kaweli is being used as a back road. And as it stands, when people, Kaweli is complex. So when people come up that road, they go into all different curves because there are no clear signs, no demarcations. This is from Wandido, this is going down to La Clary, this is going through La Pansy. So we would appreciate if there are some signs clearly demarcating the way to go. And we would appreciate, I did see some pothole work being done, but I was disappointed during the carnival that we were being used for a back road and our roads got even worse. But thank you for what you have done, and please have some consideration so that there will be clear signage so that people won't get lost in the complexity of the road system up there. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your recommendation, a good one. We did have a number of signs which we now need to replace. And I looked at Minister Hippolyte. I recall when she was once she was leaving Grosley trying to get to Castries through Carolee, and she got lost. And as a consequence, we had to put up a number of signs guiding you. But we certainly have to put up the signs, the directional signs. There's a small committee which was appointed to look at the street names, because they all have street names, so that we can introduce the street names. Okay? Thank you very much.
Good night, gentlemen. My name is Gaspar Henry, GSPAR, HNY. I'm from the Street University, and this question is to a man I love quite dearly, the Prime Minister of this country. Mr. Prime Minister, when you were leader of the opposition, on several occasions you presented to the electorate that if you become Prime Minister, you are going to hold anyone who tamper with the funds of the public. You're going to hold them accountable. I'm asking you, when are you going to put wheels in motion to ensure that this undertaking is being accomplished? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to tell you that these wheels are already in motion. But you know, you cannot, there's something called information and evidence. You cannot work only on information without evidence. And that's what takes time. Evidence takes time. I'm not one to make threats. I don't make threats. I don't threaten people. I don't just speak out of turn and just say things for saying sake. I always say to people to fact check me. And this is why I can say what I say, why I say, when I want, and where I want. Because I need to be fact checked. The wheels of justice will grind. They are grinding, but I want to say to the public, I will make no announcements until we've reached a stage where announcements can be made. But that promise, and it's starting from our government, that promise of having a government that is free, that doesn't tolerate misdeeds. And every man and woman in my cabinet knows that. We don't tolerate misdeeds. We lead by example. Because anything they've tried on us, any accusation, any lie has ended up in zero. Unlike them, where we have all the information, but now we are building the evidence.
Good night to all. Actually, I sit down and I listen to the amount of contracts that will be given out in the time to come. But I am a construction worker. And I'm telling you, we as construction workers working, most of the companies out there, just take NIC and tax on us, and it doesn't pay it. And we need somebody to champion the construction worker, because that's been happening for the longest while. And when we go to Labor Department or anything, most times, often than the other, that the construction worker, the contractor, always win over the normal worker. And I tell you, we are the hardest workers in St. Lucia.
Well, that is not right. And then that's not right. And you must name and shame them. So you need to go to the NIC and call the contractor's name. Well, don't mention his name here, but because you know how it is, there's court and this thing. Mention his name privately to the Minister of Labor, and she will investigate. But anybody who takes, but there's something, you know, you can pay your NIC, and you're making a good point. Self-employed people should make it, to try to make it a habit to pay their own NIC. So if you're working for yourself, and something I forgot, do you know anybody who collect $10,000 or less from the treasury? They go and they leave the treasury with the entire $10,000. We have removed the tax, and that also is the way we fight inflation. We've removed the tax on the 10% that used to be charged on $10,000. So musicians, everybody who goes to the treasury, or anybody, in fact, in the private sector, we've said to the private sector, do not take any tax on the $10,000, but when you're setting up your tax return, you must show it. You understand? So this is a major development that the opposition tries to hide. A major development. Because if you have a little job and you get $5,000, before you used to get in your hand $4,500. Right now, you get your $5,000 or probably $5,000 minus something for stamps. That's all you get. And this is a major development which the cabinet debated, and the senior minister told you, we debated for hours on that because our cabinet meetings last very long. We debated for hours on that. You understand? And we decided that anybody who gets less than $10,000 won't pay any taxes. So for the contractors or the people who are not paying those NIC, they have to be called and called out, and the government will take steps to ensure that doesn't happen.
Good evening. I'll take it in turns. In turn, okay? The representative for Central Castries, from Minister of Housing, that's a brilliant idea. In putting the building as one structure and dividing it into apartments. One. Secondly, Mr. Ernest Hilaire, as the development of the road is being constructed, what are your plans for cul-de-sac? Because to my mind, it could turn to an entertainment area. You have a vast land of probably 12 acres, which could be divided. You have the bikers, you could divide probably 4 acres each. You have the bikers. You have an area where you could get somebody investor with a roller coaster. Have entertainment areas for shows, square, because the population is growing. And to me, in my mind, you can't have square on Derek Walcott Square right now. And thirdly, I think you all should put value on the garbage. Value. I'll explain myself. You get an investor, you get someone who's interested in how you call it?
Recycling.
Recycling, right? So when you put value on the garbage, there are lots of people who depend if you notice, if you ever go to Dayglow at around 5:30 in the morning, there are a lot of people who depends on the bottles to resell. So if you put value on the garbage, a lot of people will earn a living from that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think he was just making basic observations as opposed to asking questions, but I'm sure the observations will be taken note of, and whatever can apply will apply in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody. Honorable King, observation in Activille. We live in the bottom there, as you know. We need lights. Down there is very dangerous at night. Very dangerous at night. Now, I realized last week a set of contractors came there and they put some railings. Now they put the railings on the other side, but we in the bottom there, no light at night. And you know the step, very dangerous. I don't know why they did not put the railings down there, but we need the railings down there. That's very important. One more observation. Garbage. Garbage. We have some garbage by the road, by the main road there. I don't know, before the COVID, they used to have 3 days garbage. After the COVID, they're having 2. And they always pile up with garbage. Now, I understood they want to rectify that problem. But what I hear they want to do, they want the truck to come in our gap where we live in. If any garbage go inside there, that's chaos. Because inside there, we have a problem in turning point. As you know, when ambulance come inside there, it's chaos at night. Now, inside there, sir, we want that problem to rectify. That parking inside there. Inside there should be a turning point, not parking area. Any fire, they have I'll tell you, a water hydrant or whatsoever. Vehicles parking on top of that, you know. If any fire in the night, it's chaos. So I don't know if you could rectify that. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let me quickly answer your questions. One, regarding street lighting, and that also, I guess, affects many other people. We are now in the process of finalizing an arrangement for a new set of lights throughout the country. We are hoping that very soon it will be done, it will complete it, and the Ministry of Economic Development is the one who is handling that particular project. It would mean once we conclude the negotiations with Looselec and the contractor, we're hoping to install some 24,000 streetlights, new streetlights throughout the country. Okay? In addition to the streetlights, it comes with the complement of cameras. So every streetlight will also have a camera which will assist us in detecting criminal activity throughout the country, no matter where. So that program is on the way. The other one regarding the garbage, we are working assiduously with the Solid Waste Management Company, and we have been attempting to manage that location at Active Hill with regards to the garbage location, and particularly with solid waste, how we call it, bulk waste. They have just recently written to me, the general manager, and we have started an exercise of increasing the frequency of bulk waste collection. But as you said, we need to deal with general garbage, improve on that. We have also started a program of removing derelict vehicles. In fact, this week coming, we're hoping to remove about 30 other derelict vehicles. So those of you, beg your pardon? Derelict vehicles, vehicles that are not moving. Once you're not moving, we will put a stick on it and we get rid of it. So we're working on this, and the issue of the turning point and the fire hydrant, we'll look at it. Okay?
Pleasant good evening, everyone. My question is directed to my parliamentary representative, in whom I'm well pleased, the Honorable Richard Frederick. As a resident of the CDC, it's a big debate with all residents, especially that of the old CDC. What is the short-term plan for those CDC buildings and medium-term plans with the CDC? I know that we're currently well on our way with Block X, but where do we go from here for the residents of the old CDC buildings?
Really and truly, we know that those buildings have outlived their usefulness. Those buildings were built in 1948 when there was this Castries fire, and they were not built with any kind of structural integrity. They were built for quick accommodation, and over 70 years later, they are there. One must understand that obviously they cannot withstand the kind of forces and natural elements that we now see coming through. So Block X, as everybody knew, was giving some problems. There is only one resident left in Block X to be moved, and I can guarantee you by month end or before the 15th of September, Block X should be going down. All protocols will be followed. It will be done through the DCA. It will be done with the police. It will be done how it has to be done. But definitely we have already written to DCA. There is one occupant kind of holding us back, but we don't see it being an insurmountable problem. As it relates to the others, they are going through the same phases. But what we realize we have to do is to deal with those CDCs on a case-by-case basis. But I want to urge residents that even from your own volition, take certain precautionary measures. If it were me, I would get out, especially not the flat ones, the 2- and 3-story ones. You know, you see those things shaking. Not too long ago, a child was walking on the sidewalk and a huge piece of concrete fell about 2 feet from the child. Thank God it didn't fall on her head. She would have been deceased. You know, so I think residents need to take a certain degree of responsibility for their safety and do as much as they can to get out of those buildings, like I said, especially the taller and older ones, as we attempt to assist in whatever way we can in moving those that are urgently needed to move.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Prime Minister. Good evening, ministers. There are so many things that I could bring up at this time, but some of it will be dealt with a little later. One is, I'm happy to see that works are being done with contractors on the road in terms of cleaning. But safety-wise, there are still issues with those weed eaters. I travel at Vieux-Fort Road every single day, and it's a problem. Some of the guys, I know it's not being done deliberately, they want to earn a living. But when vehicles are approaching, you could still hear stuff hitting on vehicles. And sometimes the drivers would stop, and you know what will be said. I mean, you know how some people would behave when you hear objects hitting your vehicle and stuff like this. Now, I understand that the guys are trying to earn a living, which that is very good, but I don't know, from the minister's end, I don't know if they could really speak to the contractor, if they have supervisors on the road, who they could talk to about it that would do something about safety. The other one is branches in some areas, Mr. King, still hanging over the road, and you find when these container trucks pass, and they hit those branches from on top. Some of them broken, and they stay hanging there sometimes for over a day. I witnessed that just in the Badville, I think about 2 days ago. I mean, something hit, I think there's a bamboo, something. And that thing was just hanging there. Nobody will see the need to. Because I feel sometimes there are so many things that could be done without the ministers getting involved or somebody. I mean, some of us in the community, there are certain things we could do. But I don't know, some of us feel too bad. I say, minister, can you go. But for our own safety, sometimes I believe there are objects hanging there that we could take care of.
And we have another problem with drivers. I travel on that Viewford Road every day, and the Prime Minister have made an effort in assisting the police with vehicles, bikes. But I don't know how some vehicles have time to develop so fast that sometimes I'm wondering where because I witness accidents almost every day on that Viewford Road. And the problem is because there's no loss of lives. That's why sometimes we don't hear about those accidents. But accidents are happening on that road so often, going to Viewford. I think something, I don't know if they could have some patrol at certain times, especially on afternoons, 4:30, 5 o'clock, that's the time people traverse from work. Something must be done to monitor that road, because I'm telling you, one of these days, some serious thing is going to happen there, because the vehicles we have now are so quick, so fast, and some guys, I don't know why they feel they have to drive so fast. And with emergency vehicles, I realize we have emergencies, ambulances on the road, fire trucks, and some drivers feel that's the time they're going to stick up to those emergency vehicles, because the siren is on, they get an opportunity to beat the traffic. I think they should monitor that thing and monitor it, because it's a serious, serious situation that is going. It has been happening for years, because I worked at the fire department, and it's almost 13 years now I retired, and that was happening in my time, and it is still happening. So I think something must be done about that. Thank you.
Very good observation.
One thing, I think that what you said tonight means that people must take a little bit of more personal responsibility for their actions. Because with the weed eater, there's a protective thing that you can put just on top of the blade. A guard, a protective guard. I don't know why they take it out. They take it out. I don't know why they take it out. That can go on top and it solves all the problems. But people must take personal responsibility. On the business of accidents, most accidents, and I say that without fear or favor, most accidents, if there was less speed, the accident would not have been so bad. And that's the truth. If there was less speed, most accidents, less speed would have solved the problem to an extent. But as a people, we need to take some more personal responsibility, we have to exercise, especially in resolving our conflicts.
Good evening, everyone. This question is from my parliamentary rep, Mr. King. Mr. King, I know we face many challenges. My question to you is, busy, we face a lot of challenges. What I want from you as my parliamentary rep, youth-wise, at least a cut, because we have a lot of talented players. Youth, at least a cut for the youth, because they're playing on the road. You see children running up and down the road playing with the ball whatsoever. We have the Nemo headquarters right there. Where do I live? Up Concrete Hill. For us to get the bus, we have to walk down the Concrete Hill and wait in the sun for a bus. At least if we can get at least a bus shelter, so that we can stand under to wait for, because busy is problematic for bus. So it's like hours waiting in the sun for a bus. The elderly cannot walk down until the main road, they have to stand there.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Thelma. In Bize, the bus shelter for sure, that is one under consideration. The court, there was a court under construction. It was aborted. We have now redesigned it to put in that court between Nemo and the road. So hopefully we'll be able to do that early in the new year. And there's a green space where we did a children's playground. We will return to do a new playground for the kids in Bize. At the Carolee Park, we are installing a new children's playground at Carolee Park. The playground is already here. It has been sitting, waiting to be installed. When we're finished with Carolee, we're doing a children's playground much better than what it used to be in Bize, followed by one in Amandale. So we will speak about the bus shelter when we meet in private, like the Prime Minister would say.
Good night,
my brothers, proud of this Labour government. Honorable Richard Frederick, I know everything can be done one time, but we have a major problem in the city, and I have not heard that being spoken about tonight. We have a major problem with circulation, which is vehicular traffic, pedestrian traffic, and vendors. It's causing a lot of confusion sometimes, especially when you have activities in Castries. I think we need to start to plan now to look at what we can do about the transport system, because one of the major issues is the bus system in Castries, which is taking up quite a bit of space. And I figure if we start now to look at planning what is to be done. I've heard a lot of talk about this, but nothing has been done, and the problem still remains. So we have to look at the circulation issues in Castries. Sometimes on an evening you can hardly pass on during the street. So I think if you look at it now and start to plan it, we can see something happening in the future.
Thank you, but just to let you know that your mindset and mine go almost hand in hand, to the point where my attaché here can tell you we have already commissioned. In fact, the guy said he's going to give us the costings. Commission a study of traffic in the city to determine which streets to make one-way and in which direction, which streets to make two-way and two-way in both directions, and that will assist us, that will basically optimize traffic circulation. So we've seen it. There's streets, for example, that street up there, what's it, Brazil Street will serve well if it's made a one-way. So you just decongest loads and loads of traffic. There are businesses that cannot even get 2 minutes to offload their ware because of the fact that that street is a two-way street and vehicles end up parking on both sides of the road, notwithstanding. So that study, I can tell you, we've commissioned it, and I'm hoping in the not too distant future, obviously with the approval of cabinet, we can see how we can optimize traffic circulation in the city.
Thank you for your questions to everyone in the audience, and I'm just taking 2 questions from our Facebook Live. One for Dr. Hilaire. Dr. Hilaire, Shane Sidney asked, can you ask Ernest Hilaire if 2 revenue collection points can be placed at the entrance of Soufrière from the Choiseul end and the other at the Bouton end, where the tourists can pay at least US $2 per head, and the money can be used for road infrastructure works, drains, etc. I suspect Honorable Hippolyte probably put that person up to that.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how this would work, that you put up 2 tools, one at either entrance, and only charge tourists to enter Soufrière. So, I mean, I'm not sure how that can work. But I guess we can reflect on it. I'm not sure. I mean, I've never heard of a tool that charges only visitors. I'm not sure.
We have to respect rules. To our panel, what do you say? I will forgo what I have and allow you to ask the last question.
Okay. Good night, everyone. May I have good night to you. This morning, I took my grandmother to the health center. And I was close. What happened today? I took my grandmother to the health center this morning, and there was a lock. What happened today? So, is the health guy around? I don't know.
Thank you. We will inquire and get back to you. We haven't seen an official message from the Ministry of Health, but I'm sure there is a reasonable explanation for that. So St. Lucia Labour Party people in the hall and on the Facebook Live, I would like to thank you immensely for coming out in your large numbers, all those who were standing in the back. But you know, you stayed with us throughout the entire proceedings. Thank you very much for your dedication to your party and to your country. And to our parliamentarians, both seated on the stage and in the audience, thank you. I know all of you have had very long days. And I would like to thank the Prime Minister, political leader, for his courage, his dedication to the people of St. Lucia. And I can tell you, every single day this man comes to work, it is to serve you. So thank you, everyone, and get home safely.
The SLP government is fighting inflation for you with monthly subsidies on cooking gas that keeps the price down by absorbing the imported increases in the price of rice, flour, and sugar. Through the removal of government's 6% service charge on the price of controlled goods, Fishers now get a $2.50 rebate on every gallon of petrol they purchase, with monthly subsidies of $1 million on other petroleum products, including cooking gas, and foregoing the collection of $22.9 million in revenue on imported petroleum products in 2022. The SLP government is fighting inflation for you. The SLP government is fighting inflation for you by giving government pensioners one-off payments of $500 and $600 in 2021 and 2022. Through paying $2.6 million in facilities fees for